I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that Monster Hunter is one of my favorite games ever. I've loved it for years, and I'm gonna love it for even more years.
I ain't gonna never stop loving you, bitch.
But a game that I love just as much is Minecraft. And as I was getting into bed to fall asleep, I suddenly thought, what if the Ender Dragon fought Elder Dragons? And now we're here. Now I'm making this video. I want to see how well the Ender Dragon does against the Elder Dragons of Monster Hunter. I'm going to go over the Ender Dragon's strength and then put him in a fight against Elder Dragons. Not all of them, but you'll see in a second. So by the end of the video, we're going to see where the Ender Dragon ranks on the totem pole of Elder Dragons. And before I get any goofy people in the comments going, what
about other monsters?
What about other monsters, okay? This is a dragon on dragon fight. I don't care about what the Ender Dragon will do against Rajang. Have the Warden fight Rajang for all I care. This ain't about them. Also, Minecraft has two versions, Java and Bedrock. I'm gonna be using the Ender Dragon in both versions. And with that being said, let's get right into the Ender Dragon. The first thing we gotta mention about the Ender Dragon is... unfortunately, the size. You're probably asking yourself, oh, why are you saying unfortunately? Why are you saying unfortunately, Spottable? And well, the mobs in Minecraft aren't the biggest. And to show this, the Ender Dragon is 8 blocks long and a couple blocks tall. Every block in Minecraft, it's 1 cubic meter. Also, yes, I've seen that some people say that it's 7 blocks tall. You're gonna see right now, that shit's not gonna matter. We're just gonna say 8, right? And so if we turn meters into centimeters, you're gonna see in a second why I'm turning them into centimeters. Every meter is 100 centimeters. So 8 blocks means 8 meters, which would be 800 centimeters, which is... which is really bad. And that's bad because for reference, Yaku is essentially 900 centimeters long. What the fuck? The Ender Dragon is smaller than Yaku? I mean, yeah, the Ender Dragon has wings, so I guess it has a bigger wingspan, but that's because Yaku doesn't have wings. So for the sake of it, we'll just say, okay, sure, it's essentially the same size as Yaku. That's a very small monster in the Monster Hunter universe. But don't worry, he's not the smallest Elder Dragon if he was an Elder Dragon because he's still bigger than Kirin. So you know what? The Ender Dragon's at least got that. Not the smallest dragon. Cool. But hey, we're not here for the Ender Dragon's size. All right? We're not here for the size. We're here for the power, baby. And let's start with the Ender Dragon's breath attack. There is more than meets the eye here. So the Ender Dragon can spew this kind of mist attack. It's not like really fire or a kind of mist ball attack. It's kind of weird to say. You know what? I'm just going to say it now. The stuff is just straight up not fire. When you get killed by it, it says magic. And with the properties it has, I'm willing to believe it. So from here on out, I'm gonna say magic attack. When this stuff hits the ground, it usually lingers on the ground for quite a bit. It actually resembles a lot of like what the Magalas can do. I mean, just straight up, it looks very similar to like the Magalas' frenzy attacks. But what's so special about these magical blast attacks? Well, it's the fact that they ignore armor. That's right. It does the same amount of damage with no armor and with full netherite armor. It doesn't matter. The only way to counter it is with enchantments, which could be seen as a form of magical protection. So you would need magic to essentially protect yourself. Straight up, no one in the Monster Hunter universe uses magic, except for collabs, but we're not talking about collabs. But how strong is the actual magical attack? And it's like, if you only get hit by it once, it's not very strong. But if you stand in it, then it's going to eat at your health bar. Think of it kind of like Valhazok's Effluvium. You get hit by it like once, yeah, whatever, but standing in it is where you start to get in some big trouble. Now, what about physical strength? And the answer is, not very good. Obviously, if you have no protection, then yeah, I guess it hurts. But even if you have something like iron, the actual damage from the physical hit doesn't really do that much damage. Like at all, really. But don't let that fool you, because in this fight, it's not about the physical hit you have to worry about. It's about that absolutely dummy insane knockback.
Man, I don't want to talk yo.
Being able to knock the player dozens and dozens of blocks into the air. However, knockback does not equate to physical strength. The actual damage you take when the Ender Dragon hits you high into the air is just normal damage. It's just that every time she hits the player or really anything, it has the added benefit of adding knockback. I mean, like every single hit the dragon does, it's knockback. However, it's not always the insane high output knockback, but every hit does knock you back. But is there a limit to the knockback? We all know the Ender Dragon can knock the player up really high. But what else can the Ender Dragon knock back? And the Ender Dragon can knock back an Iron Golem pretty easily and decently high. But how much does an Iron Golem weigh? Well, like I said before, every single block in Minecraft is 1 cubic meter. And considering it takes 4 blocks of iron to make an Iron Golem, we actually know how much an Iron Golem weighs, excluding the pumpkin, because I don't think that matters too much.
Oh, come on, man.
The weight of 1 cubic meter of iron is 17,356 pounds. And then you multiply that times 4, since there's 4 blocks to make an Iron Golem, and you get 69,424 pounds. That's insane.
That's a huge bitch.
But wait, how high can the Ender Dragon actually knock an Iron Golem into the air? And I'm not gonna lie, it was a bitch to find this out. But here, I'm gonna put a video on the screen. You can see an Iron Golem being launched from the Ender Dragon. And I've watched the video, and this tower right here is the lowest tower that has a cage on it. And the Iron Golem almost went to where the cage was, but just a few blocks down. So here I am in my world, at the base of the smallest tower with a cage on it, going up and stopping about, like 4 or 5 blocks before I reach the cage. And from the base to where I'm standing right now is 12 blocks, which would be 36 feet. But that doesn't sound super insane considering how high the Ender Dragon pushes the player up. But keep in mind the weight. To put in perspective how heavy the Iron Golem weighs, the average weight of a humpback whale is about the same as an Iron Golem. And the Ender Dragon can do that effortlessly. Imagine the Ender Dragon knocking a humpback whale 36 feet into the air.
You're going to Brazil.
That's how insane this knockback is. Again though, I gotta mention, the knockback does not equate to power or strength. The actual strength of each hit isn't very high. But again, knockback could be very, very dangerous. The Ender Dragon doesn't have to physically one-shot you with an attack to kill you in one go, as seen with it sending you like 100 blocks into the air just for you to die from fall damage. And now for probably the biggest point for the Ender Dragon, and I'm gonna be honest, it's because of this point the Ender Dragon even has a chance against any Elder Dragon. And it's that the Ender Dragon is essentially immune to like everything other than physical damage. The Ender Dragon is immune to fire, falling, drowning, freezing, poison, and even the void? What the fuck? It says here the dragon is immune to all status effects. It didn't even specify wither, but I tried applying wither to the Ender Dragon, just ate that shit. Just completely ate that shit. You might be asking, is the Ender Dragon immune to something like lightning? It is. That's fucking insane. But it is not immune to explosives. So like TNT or bed explosions do hurt the Ender Dragon. So even though a bed explosion can produce fire, it's not affected by the fire, it's affected by the actual impact of it. Keep in mind, this will come back later. Also, apparently it can be damaged by wind charges. And again, this is gonna come up later. But other than those two kind of exceptions, the Ender Dragon is just kind of built like that. I'm not gonna lie. Oh yeah, and this point won't really come up, but I feel like I should at least mention it. It can break and fly through like almost everything. The reason why I don't think this will be relevant, and no, I don't think it should be a strength feat if the Ender Dragon is able to break a diamond block, because it can't break through iron bars and things like bedrock. So it can break a diamond block, but it can't break iron bars. I don't know, that seems pretty inconsistent. So we'll just kind of take away from this that with almost everything, it can fly through them. That'll be probably the only thing that'll be ever brought up. But again, not a huge point, but I would like to mention it. And that's gonna do it for everything the Ender Dragon has to offer. If I forgot some stuff, leave it down in the comments. Okay, so how are we gonna do this? Have the Ender Dragon fight every single Elder Dragon? Hell no! We're doing this shit by levels. And there will be 4 total levels. I can already hear you motherfuckers typing in the comments, but Spottable, this Elder Dragon is stronger than this. I don't give a frick. This is just a very generalization of each monster's power level. Okay, so how this is going to work is that every level has 5 monsters, except for the 4th level. The Ender Dragon has to beat 3 Elder Dragons in the level in order to move on to the next one. If the Ender Dragon loses more than wins, the Ender Dragon stays at that level. So if the Ender Dragon beat level 2 and was able to get onto level 3, but couldn't beat level 3, and the Ender Dragon will have around that level of power from the Elder Dragons that are around it. And who knows? The Ender Dragon could be all the way at the top. Could be the strongest monster in the series. that shit's not happening, spoilers. But let's get on to level 1. I'm not gonna hold you. Level 1 gets hoed by the Ender Dragon. Mainly because the Ender Dragon is like immune to like everything these level 1 monsters can do. Teostra. Yeah, fire doesn't work, buddy. It just doesn't work. And with Teostra not having a defense against magic, there's nothing Teostra can do. Yes, Teostra does have explosions, but they're so small. They're so unbelievably small that even if we equate to like some of the bigger, slightly bigger ones to being the same as like a TNT explosion in Minecraft, that still wouldn't be enough to take down the Ender Dragon. What about the really big explosion Teostra does? What about that? The Ender Dragon's going to win before Teostra can even fucking do that shit. Go run to your baby mama, because the Ender Dragon's speaking, okay? Teostra can't do shit. And now what about Kieran? Kieran's even worse, because again, immune to lightning. And that's like the whole thing with Kieran. It's just a lightning unicorn. Except for it actually might be worse than Teostra. Because remember the knockback? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kieran doesn't weigh as much as a humpback whale. So Kieran's going to get thrown into the fucking ozone layer. The Ender Dragon, in my opinion, doesn't even need to use his dragon breath. Next, Valhazak. What the fuck is Valhazak going to do? I mean, you can maybe make an argument, since the effluvium is essentially flesh-eating bacteria and not like a status effect really, then it actually might be able to do something. I'll be honest, I just don't think that's the case. The Ender Dragon is immune to poison and wither. If you don't know what wither is, well, it's in the fucking name, brother. Think of yourself as withering away. And he's immune to it. So flesh-eating bacteria, I mean, if you want to say that it does something, sure, but even if I give you that, it's so minute that I don't see that even really becoming a factor. Not to mention, that motherfucker cannot throw hands. He is completely dependent on the effluvium. Fucking Adogran was able to take chunks of Valhazak, and he wasn't doing shit about it. Also, what's stopping the Ender Dragon from just flying around and shooting magical breath attacks at Valhazak? I'm not sure if you noticed. When have you seen that motherfucker ever use his wings? Answer, never. Next, Yamasukami. What the actual fuck is Yamasukami going to do against the Ender Dragon? I can already hear y'all motherfuckers. Wait, Yamasukami? Yamasukami? Why is Yamasukami? The first level, he's a strong monster. He can devour entire forests. Oh yeah, you mean the plants that don't fucking move? In his fight, you just fight his mouth, and he just kind of moves around. What's stopping the Ender Dragon from just perching on top of his head and just spewing a magical blast attack? This is a complete wash. I don't see how you can make an argument here. Now, the Ender Dragon has already won 4 of these matches, so he's already going on to the second level. But I do want to mention this last one because it will be important later. Kushala. And I know so many of you dislike Kushala, but guess what? He does the best out of everyone here. If wind charges, these little itty bitty little balls of wind can hurt the Ender Dragon even just a little bit, Kushala's mini tornadoes will 100% do actual good damage against the Ender Dragon. Kushala isn't just stuck to the ground, he also flies around a bit. Definitely more than someone like Teostra in my opinion, but he's also completely fine with throwing hands and getting down and dirty. And yes, his metal skin armor doesn't protect him from the magical blast. He'll just have so much more of a home advantage because of all the wind that'll be covering him. So funny enough, Kushala takes the only dub in the level 1 rounds. However, the Ender Dragon still won 4 matches, so he's going on to the second level. So you know how easy it was for the Ender Dragon on the first level? Yeah, take all that shit and throw it out the window. We're talking kind of big boys now. The first one being Nergigante. Now I know so many of you are thinking, oh, Nergigante got this. No way the fucking Ender Dragon's winning this. And I would have agreed with you until I started looking up stuff for this video, and I'll be honest, it's pretty fucking close. Okay, let's get the obvious out of the way, right? Nergigante has a clear strength advantage than the Ender Dragon. Not even close. And even in the air, if Nergigante can catch Basil mid-flight, I'm pretty sure he'd be able to outmaneuver and even outspeed the Ender Dragon's cruising speed in the air. Okay, Spottable, then how is this even close? And it comes down to really the knockback. Remember, it's not a specific move to push people back with knockback. It's like every single hit it does. And since Nergigante doesn't really have any, projectiles, I mean, you could say it's spikes, right? But even then, that's kind of like limited to a short range. But Nergigante is more of a, very close quarter combat kind of Elder Dragon. But with the Ender Dragon, every time, hitting Nergigante far, far away due to the knockback, the Ender Dragon would just be spewing more and more dragon breath that Nergigante's really hard spikes can't defend against. Remember, the breath ignores defense. And with all this dragon breath on the ground and stuff, it's really going to be hard for Nergigante to really get like in there and really, you know, get his hands around the Ender Dragon's neck. So this kind of comes down to a war of attrition. Can the Ender Dragon push and delay Nergigante enough for his dragon breath to kill him? Or can Nergigante get in there and do enough damage to kill the Ender Dragon before he succumbs to his wounds? And the answer is Nergigante still gets the win, because I just think the strength gap is just too big. Yeah, will the knockback buy him a lot of time and be an annoyance? For sure. But Nergigante is also just generally fast. Not to mention that Nergigante actively predates other Elder Dragons with a similar body shape to the Ender Dragon. Not one-to-one, but similar body shape. So I feel like he'd have an idea on where to bite. Most likely, you know, like the neck. The Ender Dragon has a very long neck.
That's quite big.
I think Nergigante will be still very hurt by the end of it because, again, unlike fire or thunder or ice, it's not something he can just defend with his spikes. It's ignoring his spikes and it's damaging him directly. But at the end of the day, I think Nergigante would win. I would also like to mention that I think the Ender Dragon could win. Like 8 out of 10 times, I think Nergigante wins, right? But I think there's a few times the Ender Dragon could get one over on Nergigante. But I would like to think that this would be a very interesting interaction. Like Nergigantes that have been able to actually successfully kill and consume an Ender Dragon would probably go about killing another Ender Dragon differently. Since they can't just kind of brute force their way to kill an Ender Dragon, I think maybe they might try to like ambush Ender Dragons when they're not expecting it to try to finish the fight super easy.
Well, I say, what a magnificent pair of bananas.
And I think specifically Nergigante would actually love to try and hunt Ender Dragons because Nergigante loves to feed on bioenergy. That's why he was on the fucking back of Zora Magdaros. And when the Ender Dragon dies, if we're kind of equating the same thing, right? When the Ender Dragon dies, it releases a lot of experience. And if we kind of take the experience as like its life essence, aka bioenergy, then oh yeah, no, it's like a lot of bioenergy in a small package. But because of the Ender Dragon's magical blast attacks, it could be high risk but high reward. I just want to say I thought that might have been a cool idea. So Nergigante takes this point. Next we got Shagaru Magala. Now I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of gonna play out almost exactly like Nergigante, but kind of a big difference at the end. So yeah, Shagaru I believe has the Ender Dragon beat in the sky. I mean, he was able to fucking catch my beloved out of the sky with like no effort. And when we're talking about, you know, strength, Shagaru is a pretty decently physically strong monster. So it should pretty much be the same as Nergigante, right?
Wrong.
We're talking about Shagaru. And remember how I said Shagaru's frenzy and the Ender Dragon's like blast attacks are kind of the same? Yeah, this is going to come back again. Now we should ask the question, should the frenzy affect the Ender Dragon? And I don't think it should, because we know that the frenzy doesn't affect Elder Dragons. Elder Dragons are so broad and there's so many different variations of them. The Ender Dragon could just be a different variation, right? I mean, it literally has dragon in its name. So I don't think the frenzy should really affect the Ender Dragon. But that doesn't mean the Ender Dragon can't be hurt by the frenzy, because Shagaru doesn't just kind of like leave it on the floor and be like blah, it's right there. As a Shagaru, he can actually like make like little mini explosions, and even in a Sunbreak he can do like a beam attack, which since the Ender Dragon can be hurt by explosives, the small bits of explosives and the force of like the beam attack I think would hurt the Ender Dragon. It's just that the whole gimmick of, you know, the frenzy taking over a monster, I don't think applies here. But again, does that really matter when there's such a big like strength gap and Shagaru should be able to just dunk on the Ender Dragon in the sky? Which yes, however, unlike Nergigante, the frenzy virus is like Shagaru's whole thing. Not like his whole thing, right? But that's like a massive tool for the Magalas. And even in the fight, Shagaru doesn't just go complete melee, you know? He sets up little bombs, throws like a giant like gas ball and it explodes, or a beam, a frenzy. And when those just don't do that much damage, that's like a third or maybe even half of Shagaru's kit just kind of null and void. While with Nergigante, he never really had that. He just kind of had to go in raw and pray that he didn't die. So again, it will come down to a battle of attrition, but this time I think the Ender Dragon actually has this. Because again, that breath attack is kind of crazy. And if the Ender Dragon knocks back Shagaru, if Shagaru tries attacking with the frenzy attacks, it just won't do that much. Whereas if the Ender Dragon threw a ball of, you know, like magical attack, it would still do just a lot of damage.
Now that's a lot of damage.
And the fact that it could stay on the floor just as long, or maybe even longer than the frenzy does on the floor, in this battle of attrition, I think the Ender Dragon just wins. Although again, it'll be really close. I think the Ender Dragon takes it like 6 out of 4 times.
Shut your
Very close, but I do think the Ender Dragon would win. 1 point for the Ender Dragon. Next, we got Velkhana. I'm gonna be completely honest here. Velkhana gets hoed. Velkhana gets the level 1 monster treatment. Yes, Velkhana is a strong monster, but Velkhana's whole kit, kind of like Kirin, kind of like Valhazak, is an element. Valhazak isn't an element, but you know what I mean, right? And again, the Ender Dragon is immune to freezing. However, unlike Shagaru, unlike Nergigante, Velkhana is not a powerhouse. Agile, sure, but not like super physically strong. Once you take away Velkhana's ice, Velkhana's whole identity, Velkhana's chalked.
If you ever do that again, I'm gonna kill your parents. And I know where they live.
I feel like I don't have to explain any more, but it'll be like Teostra level, right? Like, its entire kit is just null and void. There's nothing to say here. Even Velkhana's ice armor won't do shit. Remember, magical attack, anti-armor. Actually, I just now realized this. It might have not even mattered if the Ender Dragon was immune to freezing, because someone like Primordial Malzeno was able to just tank that with no actual evidence that it even happened on Primordial Malzeno's wing. Sure, it can freeze a great baggie in like 4 seconds, but when it comes to a relatively strong dragon, there wasn't even any evidence that there was an ice attack. But of course, I don't want to be downplaying Velkhana. Velkhana's strong, it's just unfortunate that we just don't see much from Velkhana in terms of ecology and lore stuff. So the Ender Dragon takes this point. Funny enough, speaking of Primordial Malzeno, we got Primordial Malzeno. Now, Primordial Malzeno is like the 3 monsters we've just talked about put into one. Get the status effects and the element of like Shagaru, get the agility and grace of Velkhana, then get the speed and power of Nergigante. You got Primordial Malzeno. And I'm not gonna hold any of you, I'm not gonna hold you. I'm gonna be super blunt. This video is taking way longer than I anticipated. I'm just gonna say that Primordial wins this. Better strength feed, more agility in the air, and yes, I don't think the bleeding status effect would work on the Ender Dragon just because the Ender Dragon's immune to all status effects, but that just won't really matter if I'm being honest, because I just can't see the Ender Dragon laying a finger on Primordial Malzeno. I just can't see that. Alright, point to Malzeno. And with that, the score is 2-2. 2 wins, 2 losses. You might think this 5th monster is gonna be, it's gonna be a really close fight. It's not. The last monster is the Bushi. Straight up, a Bushi is just a stronger Kushala. Argue with your mama, cause you're not doing it with me. And yes, I picked Ibushi and not Narwa. Definitely not Allmother. Just because Ibushi is just a generally strong monster. Have any of you actually seen its cutscene? It's pretty fucking strong. Coupled with, like the Ender Dragon, Ibushi loves to just stay in the air. It does not want to go onto the ground. So in an aerial battle where its main element is fucking wind, yeah, I think Ibushi got this. I feel like I don't have to explain a lot of this, kind of like Primordial Malzeno, right? If it's just a stronger Kushala, and Kushala won, in my opinion, against the Ender Dragon, then Ibushi definitely got this. And there you go. With that being said, that's 3 losses and only 2 wins. And even on those 2 wins, Velkhana's the only one where it was kind of like a smackdown a little bit, just a little bit. So the Ender Dragon is a level 2 Elder Dragon, if it was, to be classified as an Elder Dragon. Not a super weak Elder Dragon, but kind of a little bit up there, but it is nowhere near the top. However, this is where I gotta take the mask off, hunters, because even if, let's say, I gave the win with Nergigante, I gave the win to the Ender Dragon instead, and he went on to the 3rd level, no one in the 3rd level was ever going to lose to the Ender Dragon. It was fucking right from the start, let alone the number 1. Oh my god, the Black Dragon would lay the fucking beat down on the Ender Dragon. So realistically, the most that the Ender Dragon could have gone was level 2, but I know I did say that this video was taking way longer than I thought. However, I just thought about these 2 interactions and I thought they'd just be really cool, kind of like the Nergigante one. Imagine the Ender Dragon facing against Dire Morales. Dire Morales wouldn't lose, just want to say that, but imagine that, right? Dire Morales is stuck to the ocean. It doesn't have wings. I mean, it has legs, but it only stays in the water, right? And the Ender Dragon loves to just stay in the air. It'd be like a plane attacking a warship. Just Dire Morales shooting globs of lava at the Ender Dragon trying to attack and dodge. I think it'd just be really funny to see that. The next monster who I think would have an interesting interaction would be Shara Ishvalda. But mainly the first part of Shara's fight, you know, where Shara becomes like a rock golem. And why I think it'd be interesting is because, well, one, the breath attack shouldn't hit Shara, actually. Because from what I can tell, Shara just covers itself in rock. There's something special about the rock. It just kind of covers itself in rock as like an armor. But there's nothing special about the rock, and it is just rock. It's not a part of Shara. It's just on top of Shara's body. However, what I think would be even funnier, thinking about it, is since remember, the Ender Dragon can phase through blocks. And since there's nothing really special about Shara's armor, from what I can tell, I think the Ender Dragon could just phase through Shara's armor and hit Shara's body directly. But again, it would knock Shara a decent bit back, because, you know, the knockback. And eventually would actually chip away at Shara's armor. What happens when Shara Ishvalda's armor comes off? Well, the Ender Dragon's just fucking dead. And it's so funny because Shara looks, it's like, oh my god, I'm being hit by magic. I can't defend against it. Wait a minute. I'll just go into the fucking earth. Which, yeah, Shara can just do that. Just pop its head out and just boom, snipe the Ender Dragon. So, there you go. That's where I think the Ender Dragon would be on the totem pole of power for Monster Hunter. Woo! Holy shit, that was a long video. And if you made it all the way to the end, please, for me and the Ender Dragon, hit the subscribe and the like button. This channel has been popping off, baby. And I cannot get enough of your guys' support. Thank you so much. And with that being said, I will see you all in the next video. Stay safe, my hunters.